Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Endo Babe podcast. So I'm really excited to share today's episode with you. I want to share 15 things that I wish that I had known when I was first diagnosed with endometriosis, and that just things that I feel would have made my journey a lot easier, right? And so I want to share those things with you because I was diagnosed with endometriosis in 2012. It's 2021 now. So wow, almost 10 years. um, and I've been in my journey of healing with endometriosis. It goes by so fast. But these are 15 things that I've mapped out that I feel like it would have helped to know that I know now. And I want to share them with you just to kind of wrap up because I know it's the last day of Endometriosis Awareness Month. And so I hope you guys are feeling so much more empowered in your journey with endometriosis. I'm going to continue these trainings, so do not worry about that ever. I'm not going anywhere. The empowerment series is going to be continuing essentially forever as long as I have the podcast. But let's dive into the 15 things that I wish that I had known when I was first diagnosed with endometriosis. And the very first one is that excision surgery is key. That is so important for surgical management and treatment of endometriosis, right? Because I've done podcasts on this before, so I recommend going back. I'm pretty sure it's like episode 6 or 7, talking about the difference in endometriosis surgeries and why it's so important to have excision surgery over the coagulation ablation surgery, right? Because the coagulation ablation surgeries that I had essentially caused me more scar tissue and trapped my bowel and did all of these other things to my endometriosis and to my body that would have never happened if I would have had proper excision surgery in the very beginning, right? So that is the very number one thing that I wish that I'd known when I was first diagnosed, is that excision surgery is so important and that it even existed, right? Because I didn't even know. I was just searching for an answer and trying to get somebody to listen to me and take me seriously and believe my pain. And when somebody did, like I was just so grateful that somebody was actually listening to me, right? So I let him do 2 different coagulation surgeries on me, thinking that it was going to cure all of my pain. And this, my number 2, is that coagulation ablation surgery is, it's going to make my pain worse in the long run. That's something that I wish I would have known because of like the bowel entrapment and the scar tissue and all of those things that coagulation ablation surgery does to your organs, right? I highly recommend you go to Vital Health Endometriosis over on Instagram. It's Dr. Cook. He's an excision specialist. He has a video kind of showing the difference of the 2 surgeries. In coagulation ablation surgery, it literally burns your organs, creating a scab, which turns into scar tissue, right? And so if I would have known in the very beginning that those surgeries were going to make my pain worse in the long run, I wouldn't have done them. But I was so, I guess, desperate at the time, right? To have somebody just take me seriously and just something to fix my pain. And I mean, that's another thing I'm going to share on here that I guess I didn't really write as one of my 15 things, is that surgery isn't always going to fix everybody's pain, right? Especially if you, depending on like the severity of your endometriosis and if you have any comorbidities, or if you've been in pain for a very long time and now your neural pathways are abnormally wired. There's a lot of other things that can be contributing to your pain other than your endometriosis, right? And so having proper excision surgery, getting that endometriosis out of your body, and then working to figure out what else is like causing that pain and improving your quality of life is so important. And it's just not something that I knew in the very beginning, right? You take all doctors' word, like, I don't know. I know that I used to put doctors on a pedestal, and then I worked in healthcare for 6 years, and I don't anymore. They're just people and they make mistakes. Everybody just knows what they're taught and what they're willing to learn. And, things have changed a lot since then. So I guess that would be my number 3. So the actual number 3 that I had written down was that an endometriosis specialist is important, and they do exist, right? Because an endometriosis specialist is somebody who specializes in endometriosis and specializes in excision of endometriosis. There's a big difference between an OBGYN who performs excision surgery, right, and a trained endometriosis specialist who's done thousands and thousands and thousands of endometriosis surgery, not thousands, hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, of surgeries, and can recommend or recognize all of the different types of endometriosis, all of the different colors, the different presentations. They know everywhere to look, right? I can't tell you time and time again that I've talked to women. They're like, yeah, I had my diagnostic lap and my OBGYN said I didn't have endometriosis, right? And then they go to an excision specialist and they're like, it's literally everywhere. You have stage 4, you know? And it's because they don't teach it in medical school. You know, they give you a 30-minute presentation on incorrect information that we know now, right? That it's incorrect. And so they just don't know. The research hasn't caught up to the medical community yet. Hopefully within the next 5, 10, 15 years, we'll be there. But an endometriosis excision specialist is so important. And it just, even just having a consult with one, right? Because not everybody has to have surgery. It's going to be dependent on your case and your body and your symptoms and your quality of life and so many other things. But just talking to a surgeon who understands endometriosis, like we understand endometriosis, right? Not an OBGYN who says they do ablation when they actually kind of do a little bit of ablation and coagulation and excision and all of these other things. And then they miss things, you know? So like an endo specialist is really important. Obviously, if you don't have, they're not accessible to everybody, right? Because you have to have money to see them. They don't really take insurance. This is like a whole nother topic. I'm getting off what I was originally saying. But if you can't access one, right, you can always send your records over to somebody to have them look over your records and review your case. But another one of the things on my list is that it's okay for you to get a second opinion, right? But we'll get there. I know I'm only on number 3. I'm just rambling now. Number 4, the fourth thing that I wish that I would have known when I was first diagnosed with endometriosis is birth control and Lupron do not treat endometriosis. They will not help your bowl. They might help my pain, but they might help some people's pain, but they didn't help my pain, right? And that's because endometriosis is not a hormonal disease, right? It's an inflammatory disease centered around immune dysfunction. And so birth control and Lupron, while the Lupron definitely is Lupron or Alyssa, same freaking thing. I also have another podcast, Zoladex, it's all the same. Different names, same type of drug. All of the research that says that should be used for endometriosis treatment was fabricated by Dr. Friedman, and it had to be retracted from the medical journals because it was all fake. And we still go off of it because the medical community is not caught up to us yet. I guess that's why. Or I guess Big Pharma is probably pushing a lot of things too. But birth control and Lupron will not treat your endometriosis, and I wish I would have known that in the very beginning because I would not have taken Lupron. I was told it was my only choice, that if I ever wanted kids or if I ever wanted to not be in pain anymore, I had to take Lupron and go into medical menopause at age 21. And I was looking through my medical records because we're moving, and I held on to like a bunch of stuff just seeing if I could get rid of anything. And I see all like my first injection of Lupron, I saw 30 days later, I was in there severely depressed, asking for like hormonal add back therapy because I was severely depressed. And now I have hypothyroidism because of it. So again, just do your research. Go listen to my podcast if you have questions about that. I think, again, it's like episode 6, 7, something around there. It just kind of goes over the difference of those medications and what they mean and what they do to your body, because it's your body, your choice. You can take whatever the freaking heck you want, but you need to be informed of what it's going to possibly do to you. And you're the one that has to live with the potential lifelong side effects of these medications, not your doctor, not anybody else that like pushes you to do things, right? So just do your research, is all I'm saying. The fifth thing is that, well, I guess that kind of was number 5, is that Lupron is going to give me hypothyroidism and severe depression. You know, like I didn't know that. I wasn't told. I wasn't given informed consent. I was just told it was my only option. And if I could go back, I wish I would have known what it actually was, what the drug actually was, and what it was doing to my body and the potential side effects. So I could have made an informed decision instead of a panicked, fear-based decision, thinking that it was my only option, you know. And I still had severe pain when I was on that medication because it doesn't treat or do anything to endometriosis, right? Because endo isn't a hormonal disease again. So number 6 is that mindset is so important for endometriosis. I know this is something that I like work on with my clients heavily, and this is the area that I focus on the most, is mindset and mindfulness and really connecting back to yourself and learning how to live well with endometriosis, because as I'm sure you all know, it is a soul-sucking illness, especially when you're told by doctors and your family and people that all of your pain is in your head and you're making it up and you're just weak, you must have a low pain tolerance, like you're just being a baby, suck it up. Like all of these things that you begin to internalize, right? And you're like, well, maybe I am weak, maybe I am broken, maybe I am all of these things. And if I would have gone back to day 1, I would have started working on personal development mindset in the very beginning, right? Because it would have gotten me so much farther. It has gotten me to where I am right now. Without working on my mindset and doing all of these things, I wouldn't be where I am right now, right? I wouldn't have this perspective on my pain. I wouldn't have the life that I have right now. I would still be coping in unhealthy ways and trying to numb myself and numb my pain and numb my feelings and numb my emotions and just numb everything instead of just living and enjoying my life despite the pain, right? Because you're more than your pain. You're more than your endometriosis. You're more than all of it. So I wish I would have known mindset was so important for endo in the very beginning. And again, that's why I help my clients in the way that I do right now, because it is that important, and it was that life-changing for me. Also, how important exercise and movement are for endometriosis, right? So that was my number 7, is that exercise and movement is so important. Movement in a way that feels good for your body, not judging yourself for not being able to do things that you used to be not being able to do the things that you used to be able to do. But just figuring out how to move your body in a way that feels good for you, right? Because movement, I mean, I guess I'm going to go talk about the pain scale right now, because not the pain scale, the pain cycle. Because when you live with a chronic illness, right, we've been conditioned to believe that like movement and things like this are going to make my pain worse, right? And so we avoid movement, we avoid doing things that we think is going to make our pain worse. And in reality, like that causes muscle atrophy and depression and anxiety and stress and all of these other like mental comorbidities, because you're not doing the things that you love anymore, because you're not moving your body. And all of this kind of adds into increasing your sensitivity to pain and actually increasing your physical pain and increasing the way that your nerves fire in regards to your pain, right? Only making your pain worse. So adding in gentle movement. I've done tons of podcasts with people in movement. I have more coming out, because learning to move in tune with your menstrual cycle, right, is important, and it's healthy for us as women because we are cyclical in nature, right? But learning how to move in a way that works for you at that time in your life and being not judgmental about the things that you can't do and accepting of what you can do right now is so important for endo. And I wish I would have known that in the very beginning, because I would have continued an exercise routine instead of going down this like dark hole that I went down. That's a story from another time, though. I've touched on it briefly, but yeah, for another time. Number 8 is that not every doctor has your best interest at heart. And this one was kind of a tough pill to swallow, right? Because there's a lot of doctors out there, and you have to realize that, like a lot of doctors that get into the field are amazing, and they do care, and they are doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. But not every doctor has your best interest at heart, right? They can only recommend things to you that are potentially not going to get them sued, right? And they're kind of looking out for themselves as well as looking out for you. And so if I guess this kind of goes the same with not all doctors can be trusted. I've been burned a couple times, I guess. Again, stories for another time. But if a doctor does not take you seriously, or he gaslights you, or belittles you, or makes you feel crazy, or pushes medications without a thorough exam, or anything that just doesn't make you feel supported, it's okay for you to look for a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion until you find a doctor that meshes well with you, right? So that's my number 9. Is it's okay to look for another opinion. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Because it's just like anything. If you're going to hire somebody to work for you, right? A mechanic or somebody to do something and work on your house or in your car, you're going to interview a couple different people. And if you don't like the quote they gave you, you're going to go find somebody else. It's the same with the doctor. If you don't vibe well with your doctor, it's okay for you to find another doctor. There's plenty of them out there. And they all have varying opinions and different biases and all of these things. So just find somebody who makes you feel supported, right? And understood and heard, and who is well qualified. I know it's a lot. And the burden is on us right now, right? Because the medical community hasn't really caught up to us yet. But hopefully within the next decade, things will be different, because they are very different now than they were 10 years ago. So yeah, we just have to keep pushing, keep advocating, and keep fighting for ourselves and for everybody in the generations behind us. So number 10 then is, if something feels off, it probably is, right? Like if you feel like something's not right in your body, if you feel like something's just not right, like I don't feel well, you're probably right, right? And so don't let somebody tell you that it's just in your head or you look fine, right? If you feel like something is not right in your body, you're probably right. And so again, this all kind of ties in together with number 11, which is trust your gut, right? Because if something feels off, you're probably right. Something is probably wrong. And you have the right to, and you deserve to figure out what that is and get the proper help that's going to help you figure out what that is, right? And get it figured out. So trust your gut. Um, Number 12 is that everyone has cysts. I've done trainings on this because it was not something that I knew until I was an ultrasound tech, right? Like every single ovary has cyst on it. Every single person on this planet has cyst on their ovaries, because cyst on the ovary is a normal part of a functioning ovary. The egg is created inside of a cyst, and the cyst pops. It's called a functional cyst. It pops and releases the egg during ovulation. That pop is ovulation. Sometimes it doesn't pop, right? And so it can grow bigger. That's why when you have a cyst, you go follow it up in 4 to 8 weeks, because after it grows for a while, it's still functional. It's still being fed by hormones. It's part of the normal menstrual cycle. It will pop eventually. And if not, then you have to have it surgically removed. But most 9 out of 10 times, I don't know what the actual statistic is, but it usually pops, right? And so that's why you go back and it's not there. It's on the other ovary. And that's because you alternate ovaries when you ovulate. So everybody has cysts on their ovaries. I've done trainings on this. I'll do a whole podcast episode on the different types of cysts. But everybody has cysts and they're painful. Like I wouldn't technically, as an ultrasound tech, I wouldn't have classified like a 2.5 centimeter cyst. I would call it a follicle, right? A follicular cyst. But I've had prominent follicles that are 2.5 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and they are painful. They can be very painful, especially with endometriosis. Um, and so I know it doesn't seem that big, but like they can still be incredibly painful even when they aren't that big. Um, but yeah, everybody has them. It's just part of a normal functioning ovary. Obviously, there's different types of cysts, but that is for another training. Um, Number 13 is ultrasound cannot show endometriosis unless the tech is highly specialized because they do not teach it in school, right? They teach you a paragraph about endometriosis in school. Um, and that's it, really it. And so, unless you are, I know Australia has a lot of, they're like actually very ahead of the times with ultrasound down there. And so, they're actually like doing diagnostic ultrasounds and finding like nodules and things like that in the pelvis, but that's just not in the States right now. It's definitely not in the States right now. And I know if you work at like a private office, right? Some techs there might be able to like do the test to see like if your ovaries and uterus are moving. But like even like I worked in a hospital setting and even I was like, oh, this girl has kissing ovaries, like none of her stuff is moving. It's literally like hard as a rock in there. I would ask her like, do you have endometriosis? She would say like, oh, I'm trying to get diagnosed. I don't know, like I'm just hearing like so much pain. And I would tell the radiologist and he'd be like, okay. And then he wouldn't note it in the report because the way that radiologists read reports right now, ultrasound isn't used to diagnose endometriosis. So everybody's trying to like save their own ass, basically, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, ultrasound isn't used for endometriosis. They'll look to see if you have something else. That's why you get an ultrasound first because it's the cheapest option. It's the least invasive because there's no radiation. It just uses sound waves. And they're mostly looking to see if you have like a cyst on your ovary or a polyp or any other reason in there that could be causing that pain, right? And when they don't see anything else, they'll move to the next step in their process, right? But that was my number 13 is that ultrasound can't show endo unless the tech is highly specialized, again, which they don't train people in the US in school, at least it's not required. Number 14 is that in the case of chronic pain, pain does not always mean more damage, right? Especially with chronic pain, because as I was kind of touching on this a little bit earlier, with the case of chronic pain, say you have a pain stimulus. All right, so acute pain, right? You touch a hot stove, you're like, ow. You look at your hand, you see that there's no burn, the pain stops immediately, right? So say like I have endometriosis in my left side. That endometriosis is causing like all of this inflammation, sending these pain signals to my brain. And because it's there, depending on how long you have before that endometriosis is removed, right? Or if the inflammation has calmed down or whatever, um, you have these pain signals being sent back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, right? And so, say like you have the endometriosis excised by a specialist, and you still have that left side pain. One of the reasons is because you have that pain signal that's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth still because it's become an abnormal pain pathway. And so the pain that you're feeling with chronic pain doesn't necessarily mean more damage. And so when you kind of take and understand chronic pain and take a step back and realize, because it's hard to see, because when you look at your hand and you see that it's not burnt in the case of like acute pain, right? You can visually see it, and so you can tell your brain to shut it off. You can't tell your brain to shut it off because you can't physically see what that pain stimulus is, right? So this is why like working on with like nervous system techniques, like rewiring techniques and mindset is also important, because you can create new neural pathways to retrain your brain to know that there was no actual like pain stimulus there. I know that sounds nuts, but it's something I do with my clients. And then number 15 is that I wish I would have known that the stress from my ultrasound career was making my endo pain worse, because I was doing all the right things. I had excision surgery. I was eating really healthy. I was exercising. I was doing all the mindset. I was in a healthy, loving relationship. And I was still having a lot of pain. And the stress from being on my feet for 12-hour shifts and being the only one there and getting hospital calls all day long and getting yelled at by doctors. And it was it was just too much for me. And it was causing my endo pain to flare and be worse, like I didn't realize that I didn't put two and two together for a long time until I got COVID, and then I wasn't working anymore. I was like, oh, interesting. So that's another thing that I would have wished that I knew, was that stress was such a big trigger for my endometriosis, right? And so those are my 15. I know I kind of added in a couple there. That's fine. It's just things that I wish I was first diagnosed, that I knew all of these things, right? Because I know them now. And that's why I'm doing what I do right now. That's why I coach women that have endometriosis on love and life and relationships and healing their relationships with themselves and with others, and intimacy and sex and all of these aspects that go into living with endometriosis, because I've been there, right? And obviously it doesn't happen overnight. Like I said in the beginning, I've been at this for like almost 10 years. But I've been there and I know what it takes to get out of it. So that's why I do what I do right now. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I know that it works. And I know my clients see results. The people that I work with see results. I don't know, knowledge and understanding goes a very long way with endometriosis. But I hope you had a fabulous, 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 how many times can I say fabulous? Endo Awareness Month. I know we did so many fun things. The Endo Empowerment series I started a YouTube channel. I did a bunch of giveaways. I have a fundraiser going on currently with Humble and Spark, where if you buy some jewelry, we picked out a collection of 4 items. And if you purchase any of those items through Humble and Spark, which is a jeweler in New York, 30% of the sales from that will be donated to endometriosis research and education, to the Endometriosis Coalition. So a lot of fun things going on. If you guys are interested in chatting, I'm always open. My DMs are always open. You can always email me as well. And I would love to chat with you. And if you're interested in working, I do have a couple spots open for one-on-one coaching. So I can go ahead and put the link below this for that. And I would love to chat with you, even just to see if this is a good fit for where you are in your health journey. But I love you all, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.